Returning to Eastern Oregon, we go back to a time not so long ago when early Americans hitched their wagons to a dream and headed west. Mostly hidden in the sage near Baker City lie the wagon ruts left by settlers of the Oregon Trail. To the west, an old stock car sits out in a field as a testament to a railroad line which once prospered, then, like much of the Oregon Trail, faded into history. The rails were pulled up, and the line was abandoned. It is a story that has been repeated often across America, but in the gold fields beneath the Elkhorn Mountains, this story has a different ending. Welcome to the Sumpter Valley Railroad. The Sumpter Valley Railroad was originally incorporated in 1890 by businessman David Eccles to haul logs to a sawmill in Baker City. The 3-foot narrow gauge line punched west through the forested mountains, reaching Prairie City along the John Day River in 1910. During its heyday, the Sumpter Valley Railroad covered 80 miles, providing freight and passenger service, utilizing its connection with the Union Pacific in Baker City. The coming of the automobile marked the beginning of the end, as the railroad began losing business to competing car and truck traffic. Passenger service ended in 1937, and by 1947, only 1.5 miles of the railroad remained in South Baker City. It too was removed in 1961. But residents of Baker County missed the old stump dodger, as it was called, and in 1971, the Sumpter Valley Railroad Restoration was incorporated as a nonprofit operating tourist line. A small group of volunteers rebuilt the railroad, rolling stock, and locomotives you see here today, along with generous donations by individuals and companies such as the Union Pacific. Currently, 5 miles of track have been restored between Mcewen and Sumter, and passengers can take a ride back in time behind 2 authentic steam locomotives, the Sumpter Valley No. 19 and the W.H. Eccles Lumber Company No. 3. The No. 19 is a 282 Mikado built for the Sumpter Valley Railroad by Alco in 1920. It was the last new locomotive to be purchased by the railroad. The No. 19 weighs in at 118,000 pounds and has a tractive effort of 23,700 pounds. It originally burned wood, but was later converted to oil. Besides working in Oregon, the No. 19 and sister locomotive No. 20 worked on the White Pass and Yukon Railroad in Alaska before being retired in 1958. Both locomotives returned to Oregon in 1977, and the 19 received a complete restoration before being put back into service in 1996. The other operating locomotive is this Heisler built in 1915 for the W.H. Eccles Lumber Company. The No. 3 is a geared locomotive that was used to haul timber on the logging lines that connected to the Sumpter Valley. It weighs in at 42 tons and burns lodgepole pine. It is one of only a handful of remaining wood-burning locomotives in the U.S., and a real treat. This was the first locomotive brought back to the Sumpter Valley Railroad when the restoration began in the fall of 1971. No. 3 was found at a Boise Cascade mill in Idaho, where it was being used as a boiler for the sawmill. Union Pacific moved the classic locomotive to Baker City free of charge, and the restoration began. On July 4th, 1976, while the nation celebrated its bicentennial, the No. 3 pulled its first train on the new Sumpter Valley Railroad line, which consisted of less than a mile of track out of McEwan Station. In the summer of 2015, the railroad celebrated the locomotive's 100th birthday, and a crowd of people were on hand to join in the festivities. Piece by piece, rail by rail, volunteers laid tracks west of McEwen and finally reached Sumter in 1991. Climb aboard and we'll take a ride from McEwen to Sumter. When trains roll into Sumter, they pass the historic Sumpter Valley Dredge number 3. This is one of 3 dredges that were put into service between 1912 and 1942. It is an impressive piece of machinery. Large buckets scooped up gold-bearing earth to be processed inside the dredge. On the rear, a conveyor dumped the tailings once the gold had been extracted. It took a 3-man crew to operate, although many more were employed to maintain it. Except for maintenance days, the only time the dredge was shut down was Christmas and the 4th of July out of respect for God and country. Today, Sumpter Valley Dredge number 3 is preserved by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department and is located just a short walk from the train depot in Sumter. An aerial view of McEwan Station shows the patterns of river rock tailings left by the dredges. It's 4 a.m. at the locomotive shop at McEwen. This is the 18th day of October, and the engines are being prepared for a fall photographer's special. In the cab of the number 19, the boiler still feels warm from the previous day, and the pressure gauge still shows about 35 psi. It will take a couple of hours to get this engine up to the operating pressure of 155. This steam engine is equipped with a push-button ignition. It is located on the fireman's Bic disposable cigarette lighter. Newspapers have been placed inside the firebox, and an oily rag is lit and tossed in. Within a few seconds, the fire is going, and the 95-year-old Alco slowly comes to life. Over in the Heisler, it is a similar story, and a wood fire is burning nicely in the firebox, which feels good on this crisp October morning in eastern Oregon. The cab of the number 3 smells of oil and pine smoke. Back at the 19, pressure is beginning to build in the boiler, and the hiss of steam is heard over the rumble of her fire. A blue lantern hangs from the Heisler as the oiler goes about his job of preparing the number 3 for the day's run. The whine of the number 19's dynamo is a prominent sound. It is a steam-powered electrical generator for the locomotive's headlight and cab lights. We lit these scenes using our car's headlights, and the steam crew said they were thankful for the extra light to work by, as both trains were readied in the pre-dawn dark. A steam engine may be as close to a living thing as mankind can build. Standing next to the 19, you feel the warmth of the boiler and the low-frequency rumble from the firebox as a locomotive breathes in cool mountain air and exhales steam. The shadowy figure of number 19's conductor appears as both engines are nearly ready for the photographer's special. Daybreak at McEwan Station reveals overcast skies as a group of photographers gather in the warm light of the depot, rich in donuts and hot coffee. A red light in the distance marks the W.H. Eccles number 3's train, which is coming off the Y track from the barn. The marker lanterns on the caboose shine brightly, accompanied by embers from the diamond stack of the Heisler. The train backs to the depot. After taking on water, the number 3 pulls forward with her train in a nice show of steam. The train will be switched to the near track. Next, number 19's train makes a reverse move to the water tower. While it takes on water, we take a moment to capture both classic engines as the morning sun tries to break through the clouds. It's a nostalgic scene of a busy rail yard back when iron horses roamed the West. With both engines watered and ready to go, we head out for our first photo run-by of the day. We will be working west between McEwen and Sumter, with the number 19 leading and number 3 following closely behind. Setting up on a pile of tailings left by the gold dredges decades ago, we capture the number 19 and its train of restored cars. Low clouds rest among the shoulders of the elkhorns, while cool rays of sunlight seem to reflect off the nearby cottonwood's autumn dress. Those same rays do wonders for the number 3, in what is one of our favorite scenes from the event. While the dramatic light lasts, number 19 puts on a spectacular show. In between run-by locations, photographers ride in the M. Eccles-Jones coach number 20, which was purchased thanks to a generous donation in 1988 by Emma Eccles-Jones, daughter of the original founder of the Sumpter Valley Railroad, David Eccles. We have moved farther to the west as number 19 puts on a great show. The deep whistle of the W.H. Eccles number 3 echoes through the woods as the Heisler marches past with its train. From a lower angle, the 19 paints a dramatic black cloud across the sky. The classic trains pass one of many small ponds left by the gold dredges. more fall colors can be found at a beautiful spot not far from Sumter. The railroad may be only 5 miles long, but it contains several fantastic photo locations in that short piece of track. Despite the clouds, the sun came out on several occasions, and the railroad worked hard to time the photo run-bys so photographers would have optimum light. We get one last look at the 19 as the crew blows down the boiler just west of Mcewen. The 2015 Fall Photographer Special was coordinated by Martin Hansen and the Sumpter Valley Railroad. We want to thank the crews of both locomotives and all the volunteers who put on such a great effort to provide us with these fantastic images. The story of the Sumpter Valley Railroad is truly inspiring, and we highly recommend visiting this unique line. For more information, visit sumptervalleyrailroad.org. This program is an excerpt from Northwest Heritage Railways, which is available on DVD, high-definition Blu-ray, and digital download. If you would like to order this program, visit 7ideaproductions.com. There is a link in the description below. And to see more content like this, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to watch more videos added weekly. From all of us at 7 Idea Productions, thanks for watching.